Now I want to get to some absolutely mind-blowing audio. This is like an example of some of the worst of corporate response to a crisis. NPR's Ari Shapiro interviewed Neil Potts, Facebook's VP for Trust and Security, yesterday about these documents leaked by the whistleblower that was exposed on 60 Minutes or unveiled on 60 Minutes. The interview is fascinating because Neil Potts doesn't really deny any of the claims, doesn't really deny any of the substance of what the whistleblower alleges, but instead seems just sort of shaken, almost like he didn't expect these were the questions that were going to be asked. He deflects using odd language. This is sort of a clinic in how not to do crisis management. So let's just jump right in and listen here.
And Facebook over and over again chose to optimize for its own interests, like making more money.
We'll note that the company is among NPR's financial supporters. And we're joined now by Facebook executive Neil Potts. He is Vice President for Trust and Safety. Welcome to All Things Considered.
Buckle up here.
Hey, Ari, how are you? Neil Potts. Thank you.
All right. Good to have you here. So how can I explain Facebook's calculus this way? If the company changed the algorithm to make people safer and deprioritized hateful and divisive posts, then people would spend less time on the site, click on fewer ads, the company would make less money. Do you agree that polarization leads to engagement, which translates to money for Facebook?
So the argument here, it's important to understand, and I'm not going to keep interjecting, but the idea here is, although Facebook publicly says we want to depolarize, we want to remove disinformation, internally they know that that stuff generates clicks, which means money. So that in reality, they say one thing publicly, but they encourage this stuff on the platform.
To money for Facebook.
I think I'll categorically deny that. I think that accusation is just a bit unfounded. At Facebook, what we are designing our products to do is to increase meaningful experiences. So whether those are meaningful social interactions, I think that is the change that the leaker mentions in her 60 Minutes interview, or having just positive social experience on the platform. That is what we want the products ultimately to provide.
Now, it's not unfounded in that there are thousands of documents that the leaker provided which show the opposite of what Neil Potts is saying.
It's an environment where people will come to Facebook, where they will come to Instagram and have a better time. And that's really our bottom line.
So I just want to be clear. Are you saying it may be the case that polarization leads to more engagement, but we're not trying to polarize our users, so that's not what we want the algorithm to do? Or are you saying, no, the premise that more extreme views will lead people to engage more is just fundamentally wrong?
I think just taking a step back on that question of polarization, I think polarization has, existed long before Facebook.
So that's a deflection, okay? The question's really specific. And Neil Potts says, we didn't create polarization. That wasn't the question, Neil.
This long after, perhaps we're all no longer here. That being said, at Facebook, we're not designing anything to be for the sensational or clickbaity or engagement baity ways that polarization may be seen. And that, I think, was being accused of Facebook and the leadership.
The guy's making absolutely no sense. I mean, he just seems completely unprepared for what were obviously going to be the questions.
On the product. Our products are designed to have more meaningful social interactions, those interactions with your friends, your loved ones,
what does that mean?
Close-knit groups, to ensure that you're coming to the platform to have a positive social experience, one that you can have not only just meaningful experiences, but things that you will find perhaps unfettered, positive values in.
You guys, I hope everybody realizes this guy's making no sense and answering none of the questions.
Specifically about some of the safeguards that were put in place in the run-up to the 2020 election. These were to reduce misinformation, and Haugen says many of those protections went away after the election. We now see indictments against some of the January 6th rioters that cite Facebook posts. So how does Facebook defend its decision to dissolve its civic integrity unit now that you know what happened just after the election when some of those safeguards were no longer in place?
Beautiful.
Thanks, Ari. I think I want to make sure that we're very clear here that the civic integrity unit has not been dissolved in any ways. Actually, it has been in many ways promoted throughout the company. The team is now sitting with other teams so that we can take lessons learned.
So this was a centralized team, and now its individual responsibilities have been farmed out to other teams.
It's still within our centralized integrity.
I don't know that this guy says one thing that we can actually take away that's substantive.
the broader team to focus on other issues, including civic integrity, but also issues that.
So it's like what he's saying is the team we had has not actually been disbanded. It's just been broken up and they're now distributed and working on different issues. Well, so you've disbanded it, right? The people have been separated and they're working on different issues and maybe also this one issue.
Issues that are, I think, at the top of everyone's mind, including issues around health and COVID-19. You can see a lot of the similarities between the way that we treated elections on the platform with our elections hub, as well as what we are doing around COVID-19 and the COVID-19 hub. So those teams are still in practice, doing work and actually working on civic issues and elections.
The teams are still in practice doing work.
Let me turn to Instagram and how it affects young people. Here's how Haugen characterized the company's research last night on 60 Minutes.
Facebook's own research says it is not just that Instagram is dangerous for teenagers, that it harms teenagers. It's that it is distinctly worse than other forms of social media.
And she says that research found 13.5% of teen girls said Instagram makes thoughts of suicide worse. 17% said it worsened eating disorders. And when Congress asked about this, CEO Mark Zuckerberg misstated the company's research and then withheld the damaging information that came out in this leak. How does Facebook justify that?
I think Mark withheld any of the research. I think one of the issues here, we're very committed to doing research. We recognize the value so we can close the gaps where we do see gaps. But I want to put a bit of the context of this research into field as well.
It just goes absolutely. We're committed to doing research to close gaps. Yeah, but that's not what the question was about.
This research was done for boys and girls of teenage years, over 12 different areas. And the majority of respondents here, both boys and girls, said that Facebook and Instagram have a net positive on their mental.
And of course, that's also a deflection because the point is, many things for most people aren't negative, but if something is negative for a lot of people, it still matters and it's still important. So Neil Potts not prepared, answering nothing of substance, and we're going to continue to follow what the fallout is from this, both from the outage and from the whistleblower. I want to remind you, Tuesday, October 19th at 6 p.m. Eastern, we'll be doing a David Pakman Show live town hall. It will be exclusively streamed on the new David Pakman Show YouTube channel, Pakman Live, which you can find at youtube.com/Pakman Live. Get subscribed there in advance of the live town hall. Find me on Twitter. Let me know what you think about this Facebook stuff. I'm at dpakman on Twitter. One of our sponsors is Blinkist, who's been supporting the David Pakman Show longer than any other sponsor. Blinkist is the app that lets you listen to or read an entire nonfiction book in just 15 minutes. Blinkist is the way to absorb those books you can't make time for. Blinkist takes top nonfiction titles, pulls out the book's key takeaways and insights, and gives it to you in the form of a text or audio explainer that you can consume in 15 minutes. With Blinkist, now you actually do have time to learn about all the things you've been wanting to tackle. On the Blinkist app, I just listened to This Is Your Mind on Plants by the great Michael Pollan. Super interesting, the history of caffeine and so many other things. Blinkist has you covered on podcasts too. Blinkist takes long episodes of popular podcasts and distills them into audio you can listen to in 15 minutes. With Blinkist, you can become knowledgeable about so many different things. You can have conversations with people about more topics. Blinkist makes you more well-rounded. Try Blinkist for free and get 25% off a subscription. Go to Blinkist.com/Pakman. The link is down below.